In 1978, a team of NASA engineers ran an experiment. They wanted to know how long it would take to build the Great Pyramid of Giza, using the most advanced construction technology on the planet: modern cranes, diamond-tipped cutting saws, GPS surveying equipment, computer-controlled precision tools. Their conclusion? At minimum, 5 years of continuous construction. The ancient Egyptians did it in the same time, without a single piece of modern technology, using tools made of copper and ropes made of reeds. That is not the most impressive part of this story. There are 7 more structures on this planet that make the pyramid look straightforward, structures that have been studied by the world's best engineers, archaeologists, and materials scientists, and the conclusion, every single time, is the same. We cannot explain how they were built, not fully, not convincingly, not without leaving questions that the evidence refuses to answer. This is not about aliens. This is about something stranger. The possibility that human civilization, at multiple points in history, on multiple continents, completely independently, developed engineering capabilities that we have never fully understood. Capabilities that the civilizations themselves left no manual for, no explanation, no evidence trail. Just the structures themselves, still standing, still perfect, still waiting for an answer. Here are 8 of them. Let us begin with the structure you already know, because even the one you know is far more impossible than your textbook told you. The Great Pyramid of Giza was built approximately 4,500 years ago. It contains 2.3 million stone blocks. The average block weighs 2.5 tons. The heaviest individual blocks, found in the king's chamber, weigh 80 tons each. The base covers 13 acres of Egyptian desert. Here's the number that should stop you cold. The base of the Great Pyramid is level to within 2.1 centimeters across, 230 meters of foundation. The entire base, the size of several city blocks, deviates by less than 2 centimeters from perfect horizontal. The best modern construction projects, using GPS and laser leveling, achieve a tolerance of approximately 3 centimeters. The ancient Egyptians were more precise. By hand, in a desert, 4,500 years ago. It is more accurately oriented to the cardinal directions than most buildings constructed today. With no compass, no satellite, no theodolite, scientists still don't fully understand how the survey was conducted with such precision using the technology available at the time. Theories exist: star alignments, gnomon shadows, water channels. None of them completely account for the level of accuracy achieved. Every time we think we've solved the pyramid, a new measurement reveals another layer of precision we hadn't noticed. In 2021, a team using LiDAR scanning discovered that the 4 corners are slightly concave. Each face curves inward by approximately 1 meter, making the pyramid not a 4-sided structure, but one with 8 faces visible only from the air at certain sunrise and sunset angles. An intentional feature, an inexplicable one. But if that impressed you, what we're about to discuss next will make the pyramid look like the warm-up act. High in the Bolivian Andes, at 3,800 meters above sea level, an altitude where you struggle to catch your breath just standing still, are the ruins of a construction site that has genuinely baffled the scientific community for over a century. Pumapunku. The blocks at Pumapunku are made of andesite, one of the hardest naturally occurring stones on Earth. Andesite scores 7 on the Mohs hardness scale. The tools the builders are believed to have possessed, stone hammers, bone chisels, bronze implements, score between 3 and 5. You cannot cut a substance harder than your cutting tool. Yet the blocks at Pumapunku show evidence of precision cutting. Complex H-shaped interlocking blocks, each with exactly identical dimensions. Interior angles of exactly 90 degrees. Surfaces flat to within fractions of a millimeter. And inside each block, perfectly circular drilled holes. Not chipped, not ground away. Drilled. With smooth interior walls consistent, according to metallurgical analysis. With high-speed rotary cutting equipment, no one can explain exactly how stone harder than their tools was cut to this standard. At this altitude with no known power source in the year 500 CE. Pause and think about this for a moment. If you had no metal harder than bronze, no electricity, no machines, and you were standing at 3,800 meters in the Andes, how would you drill a perfect circle into granite? Archaeologists have proposed solutions involving grinding with harder stone, sand abrasion, and extended labor periods. But when engineers physically attempt these methods on comparable andesite, they cannot achieve the precision visible in the original blocks. The gap between theory and evidence remains, officially unresolved. In 1950, a major earthquake struck the city of Cusco in Peru, the Spanish colonial cathedral. Built in the 1560s using some of the finest European masonry techniques of the era, suffered severe structural damage. Several buildings in the historic city center partially collapsed. The ancient Inca fortress of Sacsayhuaman, sitting on the hill above the city, did not move, not a stone. Shifted, not a wall cracked. 500 years old, and the earthquake did nothing to it. Sacsayhuaman was built from stones weighing between 100 and 360 tons each, the largest single stone. At the site weighs approximately 360 tons, roughly the same as 50 adult elephants, and it was moved up a mountain from a quarry 30 kilometers away, without wheels, without metal tools, without any large draft animals in the Americas. But the weight is almost secondary to the other problem. The stones at Sacsayhuaman are not cut into regular rectangular blocks, and every single angled face on every single stone fits perfectly against the faces of the stones surrounding it. The joint is so tight that you cannot pass a piece of paper between them. Some joints are so precise that even a razor blade cannot enter. This polygonal fitting technique requires knowing, in advance, the exact three-dimensional shape of the stones you are cutting. Because the stones were cut in the quarry, not shaped on site. You would need to measure, design, cut, transport, and place irregularly shaped, multi-ton stones with millimeter precision. In an era without calculation tools. Without mechanical measurement devices, without any record of a written construction plan, scientists still don't fully understand the engineering process that made this possible at this scale. When the Romans wanted to build their greatest temple complex in the known world, they chose a site in what is now Lebanon, a place called Baalbek. The Romans were extraordinary engineers. They built aqueducts that have survived 2,000 years, roads that are still in use, the Pantheon, a concrete dome that remained the world's largest for over 1,300 years. But when they arrived at Baalbek, they found something already. A foundation. A foundation they did not build. A foundation that was ancient even to them, and they could not explain it. So they simply built on top of it. That foundation contains what archaeologists call the trilithon, a row of 3 stone blocks, each approximately 19 meters long, 4.3 meters tall, and 3.6 meters wide. Each block weighs approximately 800 tons. 800 tons. For comparison, the largest crane currently operating in the world, used in the construction of offshore oil platforms, has a maximum lift capacity of 20,000 tons. It took 40 years and billions of dollars in engineering investment to build it, and whoever built the trilithon was working with 800-ton stones as casually as a modern builder works with concrete blocks. In the quarry 900 meters from the temple site, there's a 4th block. It was cut and prepared but never moved. It weighs 1,000 tons. It is the largest worked stone ever discovered in the ancient world, and it is still lying there, still in the quarry, because something stopped the work. We do not know what. We do not know who started it. We do not know when. Between 1923 and 1951, a Latvian immigrant named Edward Leedskalnin built a structure in Homestead, Florida that has never been explained. He stood 5 feet tall. He weighed 100 pounds. He had no engineering qualifications. No construction experience. No heavy equipment. And he worked alone, at night, so that no one could observe his methods. Over 28 years, he quarried 1,100 tons of coral rock from the ground, using tools no one ever cataloged, shaped it into walls, towers, furniture, and sculptures. and arranged it into what he called his castle. The engineering details are what make this extraordinary dot his 9-ton gate. A single massive coral stone slab positioned in a doorway was balanced so perfectly on its central pivot point that a child could push it open with one finger. It required almost no force to rotate. When engineers examined it, they found the bearing precision exceeded anything they themselves could design for that application. In 1986, the gate bearing finally failed. A team of engineers, with full access to modern tools and measurement equipment, spent months attempting to replicate Leedskalnin's bearing system. They could not achieve the same balance. They had to install a conventional mechanical system that requires regular maintenance and human effort to open. When Leedskalnin was asked in his lifetime how he moved the stones, he smiled and said only that he had rediscovered the secrets of the ancient Egyptians. He died in 1951. He took his methods with him. And no one, in the 70 years since, has figured out what those methods were. What he found over the following years did not just change our understanding of one ancient site, it changed our understanding of when human civilization began. Gobekli Tepe is a complex of large circular stone enclosures, each containing T-shaped limestone pillars. The pillars stand up to 5.5 meters tall. They weigh up to 20 tons each. They are covered with extraordinarily detailed carved reliefs, foxes, lions, vultures, spiders, scorpions, executed with a level of artistic mastery that specialists compare to work from thousands of years later. The site dates to approximately 10,000 BCE, 12,000 years ago. To put that in context, writing was invented approximately 5,000 years ago. The wheel appeared around 3,500 BCE. The first cities in Mesopotamia were established around 4000 BCE. Gobekli Tepe predates all of it by 4 to 6,000 years, according to every model of human prehistory that existed before this discovery. 12,000 years ago, our ancestors were scattered bands of nomadic hunter-gatherers. Without permanent settlements, without the social organization required to coordinate large labor forces. Without the artistic traditions required to produce sophisticated carved reliefs. Without the architectural knowledge required to plan and build circular monumental structures. And yet Gobekli Tepe requires all of these things. It requires a large organized population with specialized craftsmen, surplus food production to feed a non-farming construction workforce, and a religious or cultural motivation complex enough to sustain a major building project. Across multiple generations, every model was wrong. And the most disturbing part is this. Schmidt estimated before his death in 2014 that only 5% of the site has been excavated. Whatever built Gobekli Tepe built far more than we have seen. The textbooks are still being rewritten. In the dry coastal desert of southern Peru, someone made art over a period of approximately 900 years, between 200 BCE and 700 CE. The people of the Nazca culture removed the reddish surface pebbles from the desert plateau to reveal the lighter yellow ground beneath, creating lines, geometric shapes, and figures. The figures include a 90-meter hummingbird, drawn in a single continuous unbroken line, a 46-meter spider, anatomically precise, a condor with a wingspan of 300 meters, larger than 3 football fields. The longest straight lines extend for 9 kilometers across the desert, deviating by less than a few meters over that entire distance. Modern surveyors who have attempted to replicate this precision without modern instruments say it requires a methodology that the Nazca culture is not believed to have possessed. But the deepest mystery of the Nazca lines is not the precision. It is the perspective. At ground level, the Nazca lines are invisible as pictures. Standing on the plateau, you see only shallow channels in the desert surface, vague color differences in the sand and rock. You cannot see the hummingbird. You cannot see the condor. You cannot see anything recognizable as art. To see the Nazca lines as they are intended to be seen, as the clearly defined, aesthetically purposeful figures they are, you need to be at an altitude of several hundred meters. You need to be in the air. The Nazca people had no aircraft. No hot air balloons. No elevated plateau nearby from which the full figures are visible. They spent 900 years creating art that none of them could ever see. Scientists still don't fully understand the purpose of the Nazca lines, astronomical calendars, ceremonial paths, irrigation markers, offerings to sky gods. Every explanation has been proposed. None have achieved consensus. None fully account for the aerial-only perspective of the figures. In the Pacific Ocean, to 2,700 kilometers north of New Zealand, in the middle of open water, there is a small island called Pohnpei. On the eastern shore of Pohnpei, in a shallow lagoon, sits the most isolated ancient megalithic construction site on Earth, Nan Madol, 92 artificial islands, built in the sea from basalt columns stacked like enormous logs. The islands are connected by a network of tidal canals, forming a city in the water. The total estimated weight of the construction material is 750,000 tons. 750,000 tons, moved to a site with no land connection across open ocean. By a civilization with no wheels, no metal tools, and no large animals. The basalt columns, many weighing up to 50 tons individually, came from quarries on the other side of the island and from nearby islets across open water. In the 1990s, a team of archaeologists and engineers conducted a formal experiment, attempting to recreate the traditional transport methods described in oral histories: log rafts, rope, human labor. They could not move a single column. The weight-to-buoyancy ratio of basalt makes it almost impossible to float. The experiment failed completely. The Pohnpeian oral tradition has its own answer, according to the stories passed down through generations. A great sorcerer named Isakalical commanded the basalt columns to fly through the air and land in position, that is, by any conventional understanding. Mythology. But consider this: when the most careful modern engineering reconstruction of traditional methods fails completely, and the only remaining explanation is a local oral tradition describing the stones flying, at what point does mythology become the most accurate historical record we have? UNESCO designated Nan Madol a World Heritage Site in 2016. Their official documentation describes the engineering as, and I am quoting directly, one of the great unsolved mysteries of the ancient world. That is not a fringe claim. That is the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, the global body responsible for preserving human heritage, officially acknowledging that they cannot explain it. 8 structures on 6 continents across 12,000 years of human history. Each of them built to a standard that the official timeline of human progress says should not have been achievable at the time. Each of them studied rigorously and honestly by serious scientists, not conspiracy theorists, not television entertainers, who have arrived at the same uncomfortable conclusion. We don't fully understand, and here is the part of this story that I think matters most. For the last 200 years, we have assembled our picture of human history from what we could find, from the ruins that survived on land, from the artifacts that weren't washed away, burned, buried, or simply lost to time. We built a timeline and we believed it. We wrote textbooks and we taught. Then we found Gobekli Tepe. We found Nan Madol. We found the trilithon at Baalbek sitting beneath what the Romans built. We found evidence in the very stones themselves, in drill marks and joint tolerances and structural alignments, that the story we had assembled was incomplete. The structures on this list are not anomalies to be explained away. They are data points, evidence of human capabilities, engineering, artistic, organizational, that our current models of ancient history do not adequately account for. That does not require a radical conclusion. It does not require us to invoke anything supernatural. It requires something harder. It requires us to sit with the honest admission that we do not know everything, that the story of human civilization is older, more complex, and more extraordinary than the version we inherited, and that the most important archaeological discoveries of the next century are almost certainly waiting, not in the places we have already looked, but in the ones we haven't. The past is not a closed Book. It is a library with thousands of rooms. We have never opened. We are still, in the most important sense, at the beginning. If this video gave you something to think about, hit like. It genuinely helps this channel reach the people who need to see it. Subscribe to Science Sun if you want to keep following the evidence, wherever it leads, however uncomfortable it gets, and drop a comment below. I read every single one. Tell me, which of these 8 structures hit hardest? And if you had to guess, what do you think we are still missing? Stay curious, stay honest about what we don't know, and never stop asking. See you in the next one.